estimates of perhaps those who have been convicted or arrested in the past, 700,000 to over 1 million. So after you do that, then you go after everybody who is there illegally.
If you're in the country illegally, you're on the table, because it's not okay to, violate laws of this country. You got to remember, every time you enter this country illegally, you violated a crime under Title 8, United States Code 1325. It's a crime. So if you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. And that's why I'm hoping those who are in the country illegally who have not been ordered removed by the federal judge should leave.
That's STUNS ABC host and woman who should have probably retired 20 years ago, Martha Raddatz, once again struggling to understand the concept that illegally entering the country is a crime. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and you can tell that establishment media is controlled by lying politicians because they seem to really be baffled by the notion of President Trump standing by his campaign promises and committing to mass deportations. Here's new border czar Tom Homan calmly explaining the premise of law and order to Raddatz once again.
I want to go back to those military flights going south. As you said, we have never seen that before. Is that going to be a constant commitment from the U.S. military every single day to take deportees out?
Yes.
So is this what we will see every single day, ending in what the president has promised is millions and millions being deported?
Yes. But you can see the numbers steadily increase, the number of arrests nationwide as we open up the aperture. Right now it's concentrating public safety threats, national security threats. That's a smaller population. So we're going to do this on priority basis, as President Trump's promised, but as that aperture opens, there'll be more arrests nationwide.
Estimates are that there are 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country right now. How can you possibly afford to deport all of those people?
Well, I'll leave it up to Congress. I think Congress, the president has a mandate. This was the #1 issue that people voted on. I think Congress has a mandate to give us money we need. What price you put on national security?
More detention centers?
What price you put on all these young ladies that have been raped and murdered and burned alive? What price you put on that? What price you put on Laken Riley's life? What price you put on national security? Like I just explained, when you have a surge like this, we don't secure that border. That's when national security threats enter the country. That's when sex trafficking goes up. That's when the fentanyl comes in that kills 250,000 Americans. I don't put a price in that.
Frankly, at this point, it would just be better if AI replaced these reporters, because at least then there would be some basic comprehension and thoughtful questions being asked. Everything coming from establishment media figures so far has basically boiled down to them asking if Trump really wants to deport all illegals, then acting shocked when it's confirmed that he in fact does. This, of course, is then followed up when the smug interviewer decides to follow up with some variation of emotional blackmail like, what if the illegal is a nice old lady or inside of a church or school?
Administration said it will no longer tell ICE agents they have to avoid sensitive locations, including schools, hospitals, churches. Benjamin Huffman, the acting Homeland Security Secretary, said in a statement, criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest. What criminals are hiding in schools? Middle schools, elementary schools. You going to go into those?
How many MS-13 members are the age of 14 to 17? Many of them. So, look, if it's a national security threat, public safety threat, and what you need to understand is a case by case. Name another agency, another law enforcement agency that has those type of requirements that they can't walk into a school or a doctor's office or on a medical campus. No other agencies held to those standards. These are well-trained officers with a lot of discretion, and when it comes to sensitive location, there's still going to be supervisory review. So it's not like it's an open issue, but ICE officers should have discretion to decide if a national security threat or a public safety threat in one of these facilities, then there should be an option for them to make the arrest.
But someday you could go into those schools and grab people who are just in the country illegally.
On a case-by-case basis, depending who they are, what the circumstances are.
This is how you know that Democrats' entire platform is motivated by emotional appeals and manipulation, which of course underscores why they're not fit to lead a country. They're incapable of doing what needs to be done because they're always using the fact that one of their various victim groups' fifis might have gotten hurt. Meanwhile, they couldn't give two craps about regular Americans' actual fears or concerns. Let's not forget that Raddatz downplayed the fact that Venezuelan gangs had taken over a few apartment complexes and that people were concerned about things like affording groceries. Because after all, she's worried about important things like whether or not Trump might make it so criminals are afraid of committing crimes.
While you are emphasizing that you go after national security threats, you have said no one's off the table. If you're in the country illegally, you better be looking over your shoulder. You should be afraid and start packing now. Is that what you're doing to get hotel workers out or people working on farms, that they'll be so scared they just leave?
Look, I think if you're in the country illegally, it's not okay. It's not okay to violate laws of this country. We have millions of people standing in line, taking the test, doing their background investigation, paying the fees that want to come in the right way.
You know that this creates fear in the immigrant community. The chair of the U.S. Conference of Bishops Committee said turning places of care, healing, and solace into places of fear and uncertainty for those in need while endangering the trust between pastors, providers, educators, and the people they serve will not make our communities safer.
Well, look, here's I think. If Congress has a job to do, we're enforcing the laws Congress enacted and the president signed. If they don't like it, change the law. I find it hard to believe any member of Congress is telling us not to enforce the law that they enacted and they fund us to do.
But opening up to anyone who's in the country illegally and going into schools and grabbing them, does that, kids, adults?
The message needs to be clear. There's consequences for entering a country illegally. If we don't show there's consequences, you're never going to fix the border problem.
It's a little amusing that the same media that relentlessly fearmongered about Trump being some crazy authoritarian who's going to turn us into pre-war Germany are suddenly balking at the idea that he honestly wants to deport illegals, when that's been his main campaign position since day one. Yet that basic fact seems to be breaking their brains, which is amusing because these people genuinely suggested that he was going to round up journalists and people he disagreed with, yet are shocked and can't fathom that he's seriously going after criminals in the country. At the end of the day, all of this highlights that they didn't believe any of that ridiculous fear-mongering from the get-go and shouldn't be trusted now. But let me know what you think. How long will it take for Democrats and their puppets and establishment media to realize that illegally entering the country is a crime? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye!